What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Yoshi Entertainment. So I was gonna do a review over this new series called Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Seems like it's gonna be a really good series. I feel like people are kind of sleeping on it for right now, but the first two episodes were pretty legit to me, and I think that this series is gonna be something really great. It's basically with Sam, who's the Falcon, and Bucky, Winter Soldier. Basically, well, to me, it's like after Steve is gone, after people have come back from the blip, Thanos snapped everybody and they got everybody back 5 years later. And there's a lot of really deep themes that they explored in this series. And I'm glad that they did. But it hits you in the feels, because it hits you in the feels. Like, Steve meant a lot to both Sam and Bucky. And of course, Steve, he knew Bucky for way longer than he knew Sam, but that doesn't invalidate his relationship with Sam. Both of them were his friends. Both of them cared about him, loved him. And him being gone clearly is having a really heavy effect on the both of them. So I like them showing this, behind the scenes, how they're dealing with the death and not having their friend around, because that's what Steve was to them, their friend, somebody who was close to them. Everybody else is like, oh, Captain America's not around anymore, we're so sad. But for them, it was deeper than that, especially Bucky, because they were very close, So showing that, I thought, was very, very important, and I'm glad that they did that. So this series is already pretty action-packed. I like a lot of the stuff that happened, especially in the very opening scene of the first episode with Sam. He was saving some, I forgot, it was like some scientist or something like that, from being kidnapped, and he's still working for the government. Unfortunately, they show you in this series, a lot of people have been saying it reflects back on like veterans and retired vets, how society is not good to them. Society is not nice to them. You think, oh well, he's a superhero, like society must be treating him well, he must be getting paid big bucks. But for a lot of these people, society is not nice to them. It's not good to them at all. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that we don't see, that we don't know. There's a lot of hardships that they face, like with Bucky. He was having post-traumatic stress. He was going to a therapist, which is something that he needed, of course, to be able to get through what he had been through, because there's no like, oh, just get over it, or you're moving past all of what he went through like so quickly. And it's going to take some time. Therapists, having friends, and of course the two of them had some friction whenever they first met back up after he gave the shield up. But I think them joining forces is what's needed, because now that they don't have Steve anymore, I honestly think having each other to rely on, to be there for each other, is something that they need. Not to replace Steve, but it's easier to do things together. Let's just put it that way. Now let's briefly talk about these two. First of all, they are hilarious together, okay? In this series, they are hilarious. And yes, like I said, they had a lot of friction, especially at first when they first met each other in the Avengers movies, because it kind of was like a battle of the best friends, which was ridiculous, because it's like, come on, like, you have a best friend now through a best friend. But that's just how it is sometimes. But when they came together, they started, fighting and doing stuff, and even though they had odds with each other, they teamed up, well, or they were at least on one accord to be in opposition to the people who basically replaced them, or at least replaced Steve and the Falcon. Let's talk about that for a moment. So a lot of people, I feel like, were mad because they all said that Bucky deserved to have Captain America's shield. But let's just say something that's complete honesty. Captain America, Steve, gave Sam the shield because he wanted Sam to have the shield. If he wanted Bucky to have the shield, he would have gave it to him. That doesn't mean that he thought less of Bucky at all. I know he loved Bucky very much. He just wanted Sam to have the shield. Now, personally, I'm pretty sure Sam was more than honored and grateful, but that's some big shoes to fill. You know, having the shield and trying to think about taking up the mantle of Captain America. And he didn't even have to be Captain America. He could have been Captain something, but, you know, he didn't have to be Captain America. You know, his job or his, you know, whatever desire would have never been to replace Steve. Just to, you know, fill in, maybe, I guess. But he did what he thought was right by giving up the shield. So a lot of people were saying that Sam made the worst mistake ever by giving up the shield. And even Bucky, I don't think he was, you know, trying to like bash him or anything for it, but he was like, you know, how could you give up the shield? Let's just give Sam credit for being an honest, good man who thought that he was doing the right thing by giving up the shield, because he knew there was no way in the world he was going to be able to fill those shoes. He, at the end of the day, is just a regular human being. He's not a superhuman. He's not a super soldier. Like, he's just a regular person. And there's no way he would have been able to fill those shoes. He just felt like it was too much for him, and I can understand that. And another thing about that, let's just be blatantly honest. In this cinematic universe, this Marvel cinematic universe, and in the real universe, there are people who would have never accepted him as Captain anything. Captain America, Captain whoever. Like, Captain America is a superhero who represents a country, the United States. They were not going to have a black Captain America or a black Captain anything. Let's just be honest. And they proved that whenever he gave them that shield, thinking that it was the right thing to do, and they told him that they were going to retire it, which was a blatant lie that they told to his face, and then they turned around and gave it to this toucan nose having clown who, I don't understand how anybody was comfortable with letting this guy take Captain America's place, other than for the obvious reasons. You know, like, I get it that they were maybe in a shortage of superheroes to take that spot, but I feel like it was a slap in the face, especially to everybody, including Sam and Bucky, for them to do something like this, for them to pull the kind of stunt that they did, especially after they lied to Sam's face. So again, you know, despite all of that, you know, the blatant slap in the face that they did by replacing him after they said that they were going to retire the shield, that we can go on and on about that. But another thing I wanted to call attention to was this guy who apparently was a Black Winter Soldier back during the time, I think, whenever they had first started experiments on the Winter Soldiers, along with, you know, Bucky and all that kind of stuff. And how hurtful and sad it was to hear what happened to him and all this kind of stuff, and that necessarily Bucky didn't want to burden Captain America with what was going on behind the scenes. But in my opinion, he should have, because I know that he would have done something about it. Because that's the thing about Steve. Like, unlike this new guy who they replaced him with, basically, he had morals. You know, he represented the, you know, good old America, but he had morals. And if America didn't get in line with those morals, or they decided to do something or try to make him do something that wasn't okay, he stood up to it. He put his foot down. So I honestly believe that if somebody would have told him at the time, he would have tried to do something about it. But again, these are those themes that they presented in this series early on that hit you in the feels. The racism, the neglect, and the awful things that ex-veterans go through. People who have gone through these situations, the pain that they go through that you don't see, that most of us are blessed to not have to deal with. It's really sad and heartbreaking, and I hate that happened to him, and that there was really nobody to stop it or, you know, make it go away. It was just really sad, you know, and heartbreaking. Overall, this series is really starting to shape up into something really nice, and I appreciate it. I like the direction that they're going in. I appreciate the themes that they are making people see that, you know, that are ugly and that nobody wants to see. I'm excited to see where this series is going to go. And with these people called the Flag Smashers, I want to see what their end goal is, why they really feel the way they feel. I'm sure we're going to see it later on. It's pretty still early in the series, so I'm really curious where the series is going to go, how it's going to end, and how it's going to tie into the MCU, because we all know that it is, just like WandaVision did. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen next with this series. I like it already.